welcome to the faculty. The faculty is a public affairs program on Delta Broadcasting Service Television every weekday. On today's faculty, we're going to be looking at something very important leading up to the 2027 general election. There are issues of party congresses being held, some being taken to court for settlement, and parallel congresses being held by different political parties. But that is not the core issue. The core issue is the elections proper. The presidential, National Assembly, state and state houses of assembly elections coming up in January and February 2027. There's always been an issue of election rigging, election insecurity, right from 1979. We can't forget 1983 in Ondo State, Omoboreowo winning in MP, and then winning against an EU MP in MP, and then winning against an European state, and there was so much fight in the north during the Metasene era in 1979, 1978 campaigns until 1979 general elections. There were issues of skirmishes, not forgetting 1999, 2003, 2007, 2011, 2015, 2019, 2023, and now is 2027. To throw more light on security management and security architecture management in the 2027 general election, I've got two very wonderful men, this generation of electorate to discuss with us. The youth, they are the perception of what our election should look like. They have an idea. They have the vision. Of course, this generation of leaders told us what the leaders, or what the future of Nigeria, the leaders of tomorrow. To my far left, is Ambassador Onyedikachi Michael Odogwu. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
And of course, the immediate left here is Comrade Chika Omoso. Thank you to the program. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Thank you, viewers, for having me.
Yes, let me start with you, Ambassador. 2027 is here again. We have seen issues of congresses being altered in some states. I will reference Akwa Ibom State. The ADC Congress was altered that they are not wanted in Akwa Ibom State by some aligned political faithful of a certain political party, and in some southeast states we experience that well. That is a red flag for the 2027 general election. Security is paramount for electoral and electorate participation in elections proper. So what do you think is what should be the security plan for our security agencies for 2027?
Thank you very much, Samuel Shak and our viewers. So it's a very simple thing. When you started the introduction, you mentioned the generation of elections we've had. And the truth is that it has always been about the preparation. There's always been hype about preparations and how we're preparing. And at the end of the day, we begin to see a lot of faults. Even when the BVAS and some other technological mode of elections were introduced, we could still see that with all the assurances that was given to us by INEC, there was still some, very, 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 noticeable faults, which included the technological management and also the people management, or rather the security management. And this has, in turn led to voter apathy over the years too. We've seen voter apathy. If we begin to look at it until 2023, when we saw the new generations, popularly known as Gen Z, for the first time in a very long time, coming out to say, we want to be part of this system. But before to 2023, we had a series of voter apathy because people are afraid. They don't really know what is going to play out. There's a lot of uncertainty from the people. So I would say that so far, it's not been so perfect. Preparation has always had its hitches. And 2027 is coming, and we could say that INEC, earlier this year, they presented their budget of about $1 trillion, or thereabout, close to $1 trillion, and we are believing that this time around they will do better. And also in this national architecture, INEC works with the Nigerian police, and we just have a new Inspector General of Police, Mr. Disu, Olatunji Disu, and we've seen just in his little while in office, we've been able to see some changes. Just about yesterday or thereabout, the units in the police forces were disbanded, and I know most of all these things are technical. because the police must work with INEC to be able to deliver a very secured election, and they must be able to assure us or assure the voters that even if you come out to vote, you are going to be safe. You're not going to face any harm in your process of voting.
Interestingly, quite an interesting response. But however, also, Ambassador made reference to the police being part of the security architecture. The police, of course, like when they always come, when they're always appointed, they come with this template. But then, what are those causes, those indicators that really are red flags for election? Because from what he has said, the police are supposed to protect us in terms of security, but we've seen situations where policemen are even helping to aid and abet election malpractice. So what are those areas? So many factors. What are those factors that lead to insecurity during elections?
Thank you very much. I'd like to start on the note that we must be able to distinguish between the symptoms of security and the security failure itself. And Nigeria is it has a systemic problem. It's not just that the security has failed, because if it's about the security, we'll be talking about the police, the military, and all of that. They are part of it, but they're not the major problem. The major problem is that sometimes we're looking at the symptoms of security rather than the security issues themselves. It's a complex whole, but we'll take it little by little and try to see what we can do in the interim. What are the causes of insecurity? It's not the police. It's not as if INEC is not doing their job. It's not as if police is not doing their job. The question is, what do we want as a people in Nigeria? Because the security issues are caused by us. In as much as we want to say that it has been fueled by maladministration of the political class, because what are we facing? We need to talk about a new discourse, clean politics. We need to play clean politics. What is the idea that if we have opposition, you can't win? What makes politics is that there are oppositions there. So a man who comes and wants to kill opposition, if it's possible, we should take him out because he doesn't understand where he is or what he's doing. There has to be viable opposition on the other side for you to say you win an election, for you to be practicing democracy. But a situation where people will come, will use our people and say we don't want so party here, we want so party here. It's not the problem of INEC now, it's our own problem, and it's because of the main issues that we're not looking at, which is the fact that a lot of people are unemployed, a lot of people are hungry, and when people are unemployed, you create a recruiting pool where people can be recruited into crime. They can be recruited into different kinds of crime, armed robbery, kidnapping, thuggery, and all of that. These are the main issues, because one day we're talking about Agberos on the road, and I almost told them this, that Agbero work is not a very good work. No young man wants to be in the sun from morning till night, asking the other people who are actually making the money to give them 100 naira or 200 naira from every passenger they pick. It is the symptom of unemployment you are seeing on the road. The insecurity is the symptom of unemployment that the youth, masses of the people are suffering. Unemployment and underemployment. The government have also failed in their own in governance and weak institutions. People are not prosecuted the way they should be prosecuted, and they are not prosecuted on time. They do government, we don't trust the say, we don't want to follow the right ways to achieve success. For example, the right way in a democratic setting is that people will buy tickets, they will go for primaries, whoever wins, the whole party member or the party, let me use the word party, will support the party themselves to be back on the road to intimidate people who are hustling while they are also doing their job. I don't want to take it away from them that they are not doing their job, but they are how do they call it now? They are doing extra things, along the line. Somebody talked about legal criminality, or what I call civil evil, where you have the legitimate right to do something correct? But you use that legitimate right to perpetuate evil, and you have a backend. I'm just trying to create a scenario. So that's because, again, the person who is having the gun may not be the uniform guy, but you have created the gun. I'm trying to say government will create a scenario and then go back and look for a way to prevent it from happening. If people are not employed, criminality will increase. If government is not doing their work, criminality will increase. If our borders are porous, criminality will increase. So if you like, get the best man to be the INEC chairman, get the best guy to be the police inspector general. If police is not well funded, they are not equipped, we don't have integration of intelligence. None of these things can
really let's look at critically. Even when the police is funded, even when our borders are closed, it's not. Let's look at the electorate. The people, what creates insecurity now from your perspective? Because when you look at insecurity, it's not ghosts that come and create insecurity. Like he made reference, talked about lack of jobs, pauperizing of the population, making them vulnerable. But now we need to tackle this. And if institutions are doing right, I think we won't have issue of insecurity. So now, how can INEC? I'm going to specifically name institutions. How can INEC, the security agencies, police, DSS, NSDCF, and other security agencies related to this 2020 election, be held accountable for breaches of security? Because in Sena climes, you've watched international television and see elections in Sena climes, you don't see security men everywhere, you don't see police helping their principals to carry ballot boxes. So how do we need to get it right from your perspective?
Okay, my brother Chika Moso has elucidated a lot of points already, and from the fair and unbiased perspective, most of the things he has said is true, because there is a systematic failure. And for example, INEC is Independent National Electoral Commission, but to some extent there's influence on the Independent National Electoral Commission. It's not as independent as it should be. I was of the opinion that when the government was amending, the federal government, the president amended the Electoral Act, that there was some certain level of powers that should be given to INEC. Previously, we've seen scenarios where matters were reported to INEC, election failure matters and all that, and they will tell you it's not within their jurisdiction, the act that created INEC to tackle those particular matters. But you are the umpire of elections in Nigeria. So I think that everything elections should be given to them to do, decentralize it and make them more independent. Let them do what they have to do. This is the budget that we have. This is what we want to do. Then let them get it running. The interference has also created that problem there. Then for the security agencies, just like what the president is trying to do too, and for the police, he's trying to see how they can look into creation of a state police. But that does not mean that it does not have its own disadvantages. But everything still has to do with, system and decentralization of powers. Just like we have the local government and we have the federal government with their various duties, and none of these arms of government goes and relates each other's duties. So that's what we see, a lot of interference and influence on these security agencies, either from within or from external. So let there be more independence for them to carry out their job, and let there be lesser interference from external sources.
Yes, lesser interference from external sources. If you're just joining us, this is the Faculty. The Faculty is a public affairs program on Delta Broadcasting Service television every weekday. And to this Faculty, we're looking into insecurity, tackling insecurity leading on to the 2027 general elections. And I've had, and still having, Comrade Chika Moso and Ambassador Onyedikachi Michael Odogu with me in the studio. And of course, I'm coming back. Now, we're looking at the critical perspective. Insecurity in electioneering is a trajectory. In the First Republic, in the Western Region House of Assembly, we had we had issues of insecurity when the UPN then was it UPN or NC? Yes, I think had issues with NPCA. I can't remember. We had in the north NPC in the north, NCNC, National Council for Nigerian Cameroons, where you had Abbott Macaulay and Co, Azikiwe and Co. But however, let's come to the Republic. The Second Republic in 1979 didn't see much of security breaches, but there were skirmishes of insecurity in some states, sub-regions, because most of the parts then were ideology-based and they were region-based. But then, in 1983, in Ondo State, that was when we really experienced the first real taste of election insecurity, when Omoboriowo and MPN stalwart defeated the Ajasin, who was UPN, and the state was turned into turmoil. There was massive killing in Ondo State. And fast forward that, we had skirmishes in some other states, both in the north and even in Bendel, in some local governments, then Bendel State. And of course, fast forward to the Third Republic, 99, 2003, we've had a trajectory. And if the judiciary, that is where I'm going to now, the role of the judiciary in tackling insecurity, if the judiciary had carried out its own interpretation, like you said, INEC or FEDECO, then it wasn't INEC, we are handicapped because the law was restricted. If they are taking a serious action of a punitive measure against electoral malpractice or electoral cases of insecurity, people have been seen with gun. Nothing has been done by the judiciary. People look at it as it's a normal norm for during election people to carry gun, commit mayhem, put fear in the people. Now, what is the role of the judiciary and why have they failed in their responsibility?
I started by saying maybe I mumbled things together, but I was trying to pinpoint some causes of insecurity in the country. The first is bad governance, weak institutions, and this also includes the judiciary. We have institutions that are not working as they should. Interference, lack of independence, lack of autonomy, to the extent that even the other arms of government are not dependent. I'm not talking about INEC. INEC is just an institution. We're talking about arm of government. Where now legislature is not legislature. Legislature is standing on the mandate of the executive, and so they make laws that suit those in power and not the law that will make the system work. Because what is security? Security is actually freedom from danger and harm, enabling a system to function without disruption. And if we create laws that does not enable people to function without disruption, then we are part of the insecurity. It's unfortunate that I can say today that the legislature is also part of our insecurity, because we're trying to refine our laws, reform our laws, but the reformation didn't come as it should. So you're solving a problem and leaving some problems for the future, leaving some clause where people can now use it to perpetuate evil. Now you talk about the issue of independence or judiciary. Judiciary is not dependent. They cannot function because the law is blind. It is what is written that we see. It has no evidence of its own. It's what you have said the law should look into that it should look into. So if a person understands the law, he can take advantage of it for or against you. And that's why I started by criticizing the legislature that the law, the provision they have made, does not give room for the judiciary to act. And in situations where the judiciary would have acted, there will be an interference, from above, because the judiciary itself is not independent and autonomous. And I'm asking myself, in this jet age, why should the budget of the judiciary be coming from the executive? They should have theirs, just like the National Assembly has theirs, the executive has theirs. And the appointment of who becomes chief judge, there has to be, you have to have some qualifications and get there. There's a council that appoints. They submit names to the president. Not the president submitting names to the council. They submit name and president looks at it and, makes that. But our budget, it's a shame that governors will have to build lodges for judges. It's not done in any country because that is open bribery. A man who at that status, doesn't have a house for himself, and the executive have to build house and buy you jeep. I do not know how that man can carry out justice equitably. So judiciary is failing because the legislature is failing, not because the executive is failing, because the legislature is supposed to be a balance. You are making the laws, and you're not making the law in favor of the executive. You are making a good law that the judiciary can interpret. So, but when you don't make a good law, the judiciary is handicapped, the executive have the day, and is doing what they like. So, having talked about institutional failure, we have to look at the fact that it's failing because we as a people have not stood our ground to say this is what we want. I started by saying in passing, what do we want as a people? In most countries, even the United States of America, you know, they didn't just emerge. These are people who learned about certain things in the Asian and European era when they were thriving, and they felt that the Europe and Asia are not meeting up with the new dictates of what a modern society should look like. And these guys, they migrated to form the United States of America, where people can exercise their right, where there is democracy, where there is capitalism, where we have a right to enjoy some freedom. You know, so I'm just saying that we, the people of Nigeria, we need to stand up and say this is what we want, for us to begin to enjoy this, because institutions have failed us.
Yes, institutions
and we can't keep counting on them.
Listen to Ambassador. Well, you've listened to him also, and I picked some points I'm going to build on. Now, he referenced the weakness of our institutions. He equally referenced the fact that our institutions are not completely autonomous, talking about the judiciary and the legislature. He talked about interference from both the executive and the legislature on the judiciary and vis-a-vis. Now, summarizing all that, it's clear indication that the political class are the creators of insecurity. I stand to be corrected. But however, moving forward, most of the people that have been caught with guns during elections or who have carried ballot boxes and they were arrested, they said they were sent, they had principals, and nobody has been arrested. I want us to tackle the political class. Why it's Nigerian elite? Is politics a call to service or a career for some people? I want to understand our own kind of democracy and its implication, its security implication, because that is the major problem. The security we are facing today, or rather insecurity, is a product from all we have discussed of the political elite. Quite a complex situation because we are a politician.
Well, first of all, politics is a call to service. And I will still say democracy is a process. I am not trying to say that we've all gotten it right, or what's some politicians, because most times we generalize. We still have had free and fair elections.
No, we have, yeah.
We've had, like what happened, that was why I started, when I talked about 2023, because what happened in 2023 was like a generational shift to some extent to what we used to have. And it's a process, even till tomorrow. When President Trump, Donald Trump, was ousted out of office by Joe Biden, he came up with a lot of proofs and said that this election was robbed. And we're talking of the United States of America that had democracy is over 250 years. And you can still see that they are in the process of getting it right. At the same time, I'm not saying that it's not really existing and it should not be stopped. And that is why I'm going back to INEC again, for them to be empowered. INEC are the umpires. The politicians are not the umpire. You understand? They bring out regulations. For example, now they've brought out regulations that from April to May, political parties should have been done with their primary elections. So political parties are equally doing Congress, following INEC's schedule. So if INEC is strengthened, INEC does the right things, I don't think there will be room for politicians to really come in and fiddle or do whatever thing. And I beg to differ that, yes, there might be some persons that are in leadership that are involved in insecurity, or rather sponsoring some forms of insecurity just to discredit a particular government.
And there is a small percentage.
Yes, there might be some of them, but that does not really mean that it's the entire political system. If not, why would you have insecurity in Maiduguri and some extent in Delta State, we're not having similar criteria? So insecurity is particular to the terrains. I'm not here to really say that every politician is free from it or not involved. But you know, about last year, or thereabout, early last year or middle of last year, the president approved about 300% increments in the allowances, yes, for the judicial officers and the judiciary. And again, I want to correct a little thing that my brother said. Now, for every nomination that is done by the judiciary, their names are sent in to the president. The president does not nominate. Yes. Their names are sent in from the National Judicial Council, which is made up of the judges, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, the Supreme Court judges, the appeal courts, and the judicial, how will I put it, judicial community. So they are the ones that make those nominations and suggestions, and now send the name to the president for him to assent on or for him to approve. But to some extent, I still agree with you, my brother, that maybe we should start allowing the judiciary to really do what they need to do. Give them that full autonomy, just as they have given them financial autonomy to some level, but let them have their own rights, their full rights, so that they can carry out their job. But I'm still going back to INEC. I told you, INEC this year, their budget is about $1 trillion. So is this whole money going to go to beavers and all that? Just as you said about system. So INEC should do more around elections and tighten up all these loopholes that we're complaining.
Yeah, tightening up all the loopholes we're complaining about. Quite an interesting one,
Yes.
That. But then let's look at the electorate more so. A major problem is the electorate, because we've seen incidences of vote buying, vote inducement. If every one of us, we complain every time the government is bad, who is electorate in security management?
I would say, in fact, I wanted to say this, that we are just the recipient of the failure of government. When the government fails, they now start saying, all of us are the government. Mm-hmm. But truly all of us are not the government, because there are some decision makers. Those decision makers, we have given them our powers to use it for fairness, for leadership,
but you can make governance. After 4 years, you can change their decisions by voting them out.
That's true, and that's where I'm coming to. That the power of administration and governance lies with some particular people. But how we get those people there depends on us. As electorate, we are the ones to elect. And I know that there's this campaign that your votes don't count. I'm trying to tell you that not voting, not participating in the process is not a protest. It is just a submission to the will of your oppressor to keep having its way. So in essence, I want to say that we have to get ready to follow the process. The process is that we know our candidates, we have registered, we are prepared to vote. Definitely, you can't stop people from giving you money. Now, the truth of the matter, the area I want to look at is that our people believe in violence.
Exactly.
And that the violent take it by force. I was in a meeting and I could hear someone advising the aspirant to keep some things for the cultist. For the cultist. I've not heard anything from him saying, okay, you prepare, go to civil society, talk to the citizens, go to schools, campaign. He said for the cultists, I hope I'm permitted to say this on air, because he believes these are the people who determine who votes or who don't vote. They can disrupt the situation. That is why we have to look at this problem holistically. It's a systemic problem. So the reform has to be actually coordinated on many fronts. We have to begin to change the orientation of our people that it's not violent. Election is not supposed to be a violent thing. Come and vote, allow people to vote. If we are not stealing ballot papers, if we don't have to shoot guns, if people don't have to die, if I can be walking, going to my home, if they say election is on the 22nd and 6th of whatever date now, and I can be closing from work and I branch off somewhere and vote, or I can sit at the comfort of my home and vote. Do you know you will reduce the violence? You will reduce the work of the policeman. You will reduce the use of charm. You reduce the use of machete. You reduce the use of guns. You reduce the use of bulletproof and all of these things. So you can see we're looking at the symptom. We're not looking at the problem. In a society like ours, we need to do something that actually put people at ease. You can vote for a week, for instance. I'm not saying that is perfect, but I'm trying to see a way we can curtail some of all these things. We leave the main people and we begin to, for example, if I'm coming out for election, even as an aspirant, I want to look at the big boys who also have just one vote, but we think that they have influence because hunger is there. These people are answerable to this hunger, so we believe that if I can win you over, you are going to win your people, whether I'm good or not. And if it doesn't come to that, we will use violence from the other side. So the electorate, we are just suffering from the inefficiency of our government, of leadership.
Majority of our violence in elections presiding the 2027 elections have been premeditated. I'll say that with all confidence. And now this is my narration, and I'm going to take that on you. In 2023 elections in Lagos State, majority of non-party members of a certain political party were prevented from voting. You get to polling stations and you were told, if you are not voting party A, leave this place. That is coercing, that's intimidation. We saw it happen again in Akwa Ibom State. We saw it happen in so many other states. And
then you wonder what the security men there are doing.
The security men are doing nothing. So what is the way forward as we begin to round up? What is the way forward for 2027? Let me start with your ambassador.
I'm still saying what I'm saying, you know, like he's talking about leadership. True. But the citizens, there's an office of the citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And 2023, when the resistance came from citizens and not from the leadership, I'm still talking about a total reformation around INEC. You understand? INEC has all the powers. When politicians are called and all of other players are called, INEC is the key player. You know, INEC is the key player. After INEC, the political parties that are presenting this candidate. So they are the ones that can come out and say, okay, because of this thing that is going on here. I remember there have been times that elections were cancelled, or there's this popular word that they call, they put those elections. I'm trying to remember that word. When they're inconclusive, because they want to investigate a particular electoral malpractice or something that happens. So INEC should up their game. They should just up their game. If this money has really been budgeted for them, let them make sure that they cover up all these gaps. When they do all they need to do, it will be difficult for other players, all those persons that want to come and mess up the system. And like I said before, when I started this conversation, yes, we've had the experience in 2023. I'm preparing for another elections, but we might never really get it as perfect as we want. And it's a process. It's still a process. I will stop there.
Yes, still a process. Interestingly, let's say, Moso, what should we be expecting with the heating up of the polity? A lot of people are broken with policies of government. There have been questions, not answers provided for so many Nigerians. There's been a hike in fuel prices, and the war in the Middle East is making a hike increase, getting worse. There's been the impact has been felt in different sectors of the economy, and Nigerians are groaning under the pains and pangs of poverty. Now, 2026 is an electoral. 2027 is going to be the year of election, and we expect we hope for a smooth election, but you and I know. So what's your take? What's your advice for Nigerians for 2027 election?
All right, let me start this way. And I really mean to tell you that we need to start playing clean politics.
That's it.
I can campaign, you can campaign. We don't need to fight ourselves. We don't need to kill ourselves. we just bring evidence. If I'm not doing well, say it. We need to grow up as a people, not to think that because a person is from my place, then he's the best candidate. Then we see every society is rebuilt when mindset is changed. We should not make our political class a place of retirement. You know, for old people who can't serve you, and they just have the money bags, you vote them in. They go there as retirement benefit for themselves, for their children, for their family. We need to reawaken our mindset. We must also believe that we can get things right. A new Nigeria is possible. And I'm not using these slangs because a political party uses it or a candidate uses it. A new Nigeria is really possible. We can play clean politics. We can win elections. We can make changes. We can believe in the system. Let's not think that nothing can change, because that's the worst thing they can do to us, to think that this system is going to continue like this. It is a tool by the enemy to brainwash you and not encourage you to participate in the process and believe in your nation. There's a great country called Nigeria, and we are going to make it great. It's in our hands. It's in this generation. They may have failed us, but we should not fail ourselves. They may have beaten us, but we need to get up and fight the fight and run the course and win the race. If we don't do it now, nobody's going to do it for us. Let it not just be about money, who gives you more. Let it be that we want to check who is going there for us. Not because they came from a very big political class, not because they are high and mighty, not because they have all the qualifications. Some of the people who are best qualified may not be the best leaders, as it were. These best qualified, please don't take it out of context. I'm saying it is not by how much you are bringing, it is by your intellect, what you're going there to do for us. We can do this. We can make the changes in this country happen in 2027. Don't let anybody tell you that your vote don't count. If you don't vote, they will vote for you. I participated in elections. If you don't vote, they will vote for you. The thumb printing and all of those things is coming because you are not coming to vote. And so there's a lot of ballot papers to play with. If you come out, we will defend our votes. They will count it there, and then we just follow up the process. And we don't have to do this violently. We don't have to lose our lives because we are carrying out our civic duties. We can achieve this. It's happened in some countries. Why can't it happen here? And I believe it will happen if we wake up, we stop being discouraged, and we face the fact that we can actually play clean politics.
We can actually play clean politics, but that's we've been discussing, and we've not been able to look at one. We've talked about institutions. We are in one of such institutions that have the capacity to either mitigate or propagate the security situation during elections. The fourth estate of the realm, the media. We have not talked about the media.
Oh, thank you very much. I like to do that quickly. The media is not trying, all of them. I'm not seeing their campaign. As an independent campaign, you don't need a candidate to come and be putting a paid advert for you to encourage Nigerians to go and register. Find a political party and belong to. If you don't know politics, you are not intelligent. You understand me?
To find a political. Do propagate.
Do your PVC and get ready to vote, and then discourage people from violence. See, man, these guys you are carrying guns and machete for, their children are enjoying. It will happen to you and you are gone. Don't let anybody use you for their own, and then you'll be useless to life and to humanity. So at this age and generation, the best thing you can do for yourself and for God is to serve humanity.
So, and the best thing is what you are saying, the media should project a positive.
They should be active now.
They should not wait for people to come and.
They should not wait for INEC. They should not wait for politicians. They should not wait for political parties. It's part of is it corporate responsibility they call it? I mean, what are you doing for us? We want to see more jingles.
Ambassador Odogu, the role of the media. The media has been keeping quiet. Must the politicians? Look, this security will affect the media. God forbid, when coup started, the years of coup, they started from media houses were the first target. So the role of the media in tackling insecurity in 2027 elections, the media can't just sit down and be waiting for elections politicians to come pay for adverts. They should start the propaganda. Now, what's your take?
So when we talk about media, we have traditional media, which is the one we know, and the social media.
Yeah.
And the truth, like what he said, I think the traditional media have slacked in that part, because virtually the world is on your phone, and everybody just feels that whatever I don't say, as we're here, I know a lot of some young persons might not be able to watch us now immediately, except there's a medium where we can transfer it to the phones, where our YouTube channel, our YouTube channels. So as we are calling on the media organizations, we should also talk to our influencers, you know, those persons on the new media, those renowned persons that we've come to realize that we're following, these people have followerships. So those times that they used to deviate the attentions of especially the young people from civic responsibility, let them promote civic responsibility, because that's, you can't be talking about something that you're not part of, just like what he said. And the advocacy has, personally on my own platforms and on my own grounds, even traditional community-based, we've been taking the message to them. It's not about political party right now, right? You expressed yourself in 2023, the world saw it, and you were able to vote. Your votes counted. Some of you, your votes counted. You saw it for yourself. So now it's time. You understand? So we're also talking to influencers. We're talking to those people on the new media, because that is where most of the voting population. You know, in 2023, they said they were not there. There's no polling unit on social media. But I always disagreed with that, because the new media is a powerful platform or stage where this information should be promoted. Everybody, religious organizations, everybody has a role to play, not just traditional media.
Thank you very much. The faculty have been quite interesting. We've been looking at tackling insecurity in 2027 general elections, and of course, two very wonderful gentlemen have thrown so much insight into the topic. I want to appreciate you, Ambassador Onyedikachi.
Thank you so much.
Michael Odogu, thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you.
And Comrade Chika Omoso, thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you for
the faculty will return to the
much.
station again tomorrow. Good afternoon.